welcome viewers and listeners to a Fireside Chat with Miss Monica Foster from Steel Lotus Fitness Company. That's correct, right? Steel Lotus Fitness
Correct.
Company?
Yes.
My name is Zach Forrest. I am the host of Push Start and the business education coordinator with Push Press. And Monica, I we've met at the CrossFit Affiliate Summit in the Northeast, correct? This was
Correct.
what,
Yeah.
a couple months ago.
Yes. October. Was it the end of October or
Yeah.
mid-October? Yeah.
And I was told that I had to meet you because you run a very successful business model that isn't very commonly found,
Mhm.
right? Yoga and CrossFit in the same facility, and I've heard of a lot of gym owners trying to do it, and very few have succeeded and done it well. But your reputation preceded you, and I had actually multiple people, not only on the Push Press staff, but just at that affiliate summit, come to me and be like, "Oh yeah, you got to talk to Monica and pick her brain because she's got something special going on over there." So
Sure.
I'm super stoked to have you on and get to hear your story. Could you do me a favor and just give us some background, like when you started, how you got into gym ownership and all that jazz?
Sure. That's a great reputation. I'm flattered. Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah. So my husband and I, we opened Steel Lotus CrossFit, Steel Lotus Fitness Company, it was 2 years ago in May. So May of 2022, our brick and mortar, like our building there. But I've been teaching yoga for about 10 years. And that was where most of my training was. And then Matt really got into CrossFit and CrossFit coaching, and I would go, with him every now and then. But I was starting to be asked more and more because my style of yoga, I really wanted to be complementary to CrossFit, other things I was doing. I was training and doing distance running and things like that. And yoga was just enhancing all of that for me. And people would ask, like, well, what do you do? And I do yoga multiple times a week. And then I was starting to be in other circles, starting to be asked to do yoga classes at CrossFit gyms or at other studios, or, oh, I think your style, that'd be great. And so I was going to different locations and doing yoga, and every single time, oh, I wish we did this more. I wish we had more access to this. I wish we did this regularly. And would see and feel the benefit and want to do more of that. And Matt and I, again, years ago, probably over 5, were like, wouldn't it be great to have a spot that did both well? Not just combo classes or not offering it once a month as a specialty class, but we're able to do both well because we both saw the benefit of the CrossFit and the lifting and the resistance training and the yoga, the mindfulness, the mobility. And we were hoping to be able to find a location that we were able to do both and have separate spaces for both. And we found the space like that. So we have our CrossFit affiliate the side, and then we actually have a separate yoga studio space all in one area, which I think is unique and makes it work too.
Yeah, absolutely. That is unique. Can you go ahead and describe the space? Like when you were looking, you even said you were pioneering this business to be able to offer both from the get-go, right? You knew you wanted to do it and do it well. So did that spike some certain spike? I don't know why I use that word there. Spark, maybe? Initiate, like there was obviously some certain things you were looking for in the building, right? As a business owner that looking to set up that operation model, was there one, two, three non-negotiables? Like, hey, in order to do this well, like the building has to have this, or was there anything that you knew you needed?
Sure. Ideally, we wanted, a separate, like with a door, a separate room or space, either directly in the same building or very close to that. It was, under one roof. I mean, if we would have found the perfect space that met all the kind of the space requirements for CrossFit, because again, you need a certain, square footage and high ceilings and things like that we were looking for. Could we have done yoga? And I did for many years in other affiliates. I just did yoga in their space. I'd turn the lights down. I'd try to make it as kind of yogi as possible when we would do a yoga class after maybe a class. So I wasn't opposed to doing that. And I've seen that work, but there's something nice about having a separate space. So you can just keep all of your yoga stuff in there, mats, and really create that environment. So we knew that was almost maybe not a non-negotiable, but an absolute, like a big, like, hey, this space has this, it was essentially an office space and
Okay.
a big office space. And they're like, oh, you could use this for storage. You could use this. I was like, nope, this is going to be our yoga studio. So
Yeah, very cool. I remember, so we would do at my gym in Las Vegas, we would do every now and then some events that were exactly as you described, like yoga events, and we tried to make it community based, and towards the end we were using it to allow members to bring in friends that weren't members, right? And we dubbed it mobility and mimosas. And it was essentially yoga, and then afterwards we had mimosas for everyone, and it was a big social thing. But I do recall our CrossFit members would bring in yogis, would bring in their friends that did yoga, and they weren't talking negatively about this space. They were just like, oh, yeah, this space is a little weird because one, it's not very intimate. We had a very big box gym with high ceilings, and the sounds, like, it wasn't padded, so like sound, it was, even when it was quiet, it was like eerily quiet, and you could hear like the machine noises of like the AC and
yeah,
all this other
yeah.
stuff. And then, to be honest, the other complaint was the temperature. I mean,
Mm,
it being in an industrial space, we had a very huge lack of temperature control.
right.
So, I didn't know if you were looking. Did you notice those things when you were doing the yoga classes at other affiliates? Were those detractors? Were you able to overcome them? What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say not ideal. I think the essence of yoga, the word yoga, and what we do is that yoke, unite, connect. So it's about, how it smells when it walks in and how it feels. And it's very, you want to be tuning in. And we talk a lot about that awareness. So the environment, yes, like you were aware. But I do think, I've taught some of my best yoga classes. I did one of my favorite stories. I taught a yoga class in the middle of Harrisburg City, like on the Capitol steps, and I had 50 people, and we did yoga there. That's not ideal, but it was great. So I think you can overcome them because you can use it to your advantage of, like, hey, it's not always going to be a peaceful, serene atmosphere, but can we still, have a practice that focuses on more of that inward, peace or thing. So yes, but there is, like I said, there is something sweet about having your own, space that kind of helps cultivate that, where people can kind of let their guard down and be more present. But no, I'd say it had great, you could still do great quality yoga. I mean, honestly, whatever space you're in. But I would try to, have music playing, or again, turn the lights
Oh,
low.
yeah.
Try to do as much as you can, even in a big space. Yeah.
Hmm. That actually brings up a, a very relevant point, I think. And you didn't say it explicitly, but it got me thinking because it's very much in tune with CrossFit thinking. How much success of the yoga program depends on the coach, depends on the teacher's ability to read the room and direct the class. I know I'm a huge proponent that the coach is the service that you're providing as a business, especially for CrossFit. I think phenomenal coaches are few and far between. I don't have that experience or that expertise in yoga. So is yoga less or more dependent or about the same dependent on the coaches? What would you say?
Oh, for sure. For sure, as equal, if not more, in a sense of there can be so many different styles of yoga too. So I think that's what is unique is if I did not do CrossFit or other forms of exercise, I would teach very differently yoga. I try to be complementary to, I know we did, 100 wall balls yesterday. So I'm going to be, just kind of focused on where, sore muscles and things like that, being purposeful. So, but there could be you could go to 5 different yoga classes, and depending on the instructor, have very different experiences depending on style, if that makes sense. So I believe it's in their messaging, authenticity too. Like, do you, like with coaching, are you practicing what you preach? Like, do you enjoy this? Are you, kind of bought into, the yoga experience? Like I said, you can make the best of it wherever you're teaching. But yoga is very, I tell people, if you don't like yoga at first, keep trying. Maybe try another instructor, try another, again, maybe you like the studio feel. Maybe some people, some CrossFit people felt more like they were more comfortable doing it in the gym space because the yoga studio's, weird and different, so you try and find different styles that you're more comfortable with for sure. But yeah, it's super dependent on the instructor and their
That
experience.
actually, I mean, those principles ring true for CrossFit. Like we were saying, it's like, oh, you tried CrossFit and you didn't like it. Stick with it. Try it somewhere else, though.
Mhm.
Yeah, very similar to CrossFit. Yoga doesn't have it's not a franchise. It's a methodology, right?
Mhm.
And so you're going to get very varied experiences depending on
Sure.
where you go. How, in line with the necessity of having a phenomenal coach, how much success would depend, in your opinion, or for you guys, would depend on the yoga coach, trainer, instructor also being a CrossFit instructor or coach?
Sure. Yeah, for us in our model, I think that's been an incredible strength. I have another teacher who also is a CrossFit level one for now and is continuing develop, to develop as a coach. I think for us and our model and our clientele, that is what makes it, that gives us kind of that edge, is that we are doing these workouts with you, and coaching CrossFit. So we also know what's going to be complementary to that in yoga, in mobility. We're really gonna, hamstrings are always tight, hips, and I do a lot of shoulder because we have, again, with kipping and different things, we want to be really mobile through our shoulders, and being able to speak to that and the benefit of yoga, how it's going to enhance whatever other form of exercise you're doing. I think that because people they have to be bought in, and like the why am I doing this? Like, yes, it feels great, but there's also all these other benefits to it as well. But no, I think that's what makes us unique. So we have three yoga teachers now. One of them does CrossFit and teaches yoga. Like I said, the other one is a level one and a yoga teacher as well, and then myself. So I think that helps a lot, especially in our model. Yeah.
Cool. So what do you? I'm going to get to a question that I've been uh, holding on to because I think our owners that are listening are going to have a lot of value here. What has been the single biggest hurdle, or maybe just a hurdle that's most prevalent for you now in managing each program? Like, is there something that is continuously a headache, or is there something that, man, I'm glad I got that over with like a year ago or whatever that you can recall? What was the biggest obstacle between both programs?
I think because ours we want is just so much a part of our culture and kind of woven in. Just the messaging, and that there's benefit to doing both, I believe. But then just the consistency, it's hard. I teach both. Finding quality, yoga teachers that we can have
Right.
a vibrant yoga schedule, because if we only just focus on CrossFit and we have yoga once a week, it's not part of our culture. If we're saying, hey, you should be doing yoga, a couple times a week, or try to add it in when you can, and we have one or two classes, it's not matching. So trying to build both well, people, and members are always, I wish there's a yoga class at this time, and I wish there's
Oh
another,
yeah.
another class option on Tuesday, or things like that. So trying to just create and be consistent with, I'd say, like vibrant schedules for both is kind of difficult, just because it takes time and effort and plugging, teachers in, and I can't do all of that. So doing that, and then just since we're a new affiliate owner, also a new yoga studio, just the grind of being consistent, showing up. And you might only have one or two as you're building, the CrossFit program and then also the yoga program. Like, you might just have some heavy lifting with getting people in class. How are we going to get people there? And when they're there and experience it, it's great, but just kind of getting the ball rolling, doing both well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting listening to you use the words consistent and then culture and then create and I feel like when you started your answer, you used the word messaging, right? And I feel like if you create consistent messaging, you develop your culture, right? And it almost sounds like you had a struggle with making both programs seem like they were um, priority, and one wasn't just supplementing the other, and that they were relative to your business and the culture at the gym, at the facility, they were equally important.
Mm-hmm.
And I could totally see how a business owner, if they saw one doing better than the other, their focus might shift. And as a unintended result, that the non-performing program might become that supplemental or like a less quote unquote less important,
Mm-hmm.
and not get the attention that it deserves in order to flourish, in order to become
Mm-hmm.
impactful. So in order to keep the culture, vested, the community vested in the success of both programs, have you done anything with your messaging or anything that you've been super specific or super consistent or super, you have high conviction? Like, no, this is something that we did on purpose to ensure that
Mm-hmm.
one program wouldn't fall to the wayside. Did you do anything like that?
It's I Yes, I would say purposefully. Yeah, again, just like having an offering every day is something of yoga that it's
Uh,
not just because it could quickly, like I said, kind of fall to that once or twice a week. And like, oh, if those
yeah.
times don't work, I guess you can't go. That is, to be honest, still even a struggle. Now we want the yoga schedule to start to match the CrossFit schedule, that there are kind of unlimited options, as many as our CrossFit. And then there's not that excuse of, it doesn't fit my time. But I think it was super helpful to bring in, like I said, the other teacher I have, she kind of had this renewed, like, we can do yoga on this day and I can do a class on this day. So even just kind of renewed sense of yoga is like, this has been the foundation of what we've done since the beginning. So sticking with that, and holding true to, do we have an offering or like consistent offerings throughout the week, and then daily is our first main goal, just to stick with that. And then continuing to say, hey, we do have a vibrant yoga schedule. When do you take a yoga class this week? Or if those class times don't work, being purposeful in when we're offering that to members as well, being mindful of their time. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, and that makes total sense. Like if the visual schedule on your website or posted in your physical space is a huge psychological impact on your clients when they see, if all your CrossFit classes are colored red and your yoga classes are colored blue, if they look at a schedule visually and they see red everywhere, 90% of it filled up with red, and then you'll be like, oh, they will subconsciously recognize that, oh, this is supplemental or something like that.
Mhm.
So that
Mhm.
that makes total sense to me. Nitty gritty stuff. I'm curious. Uh, do you have full-fledged memberships for each program, or do you have one all-inclusive membership?
Yeah, we offer both. We have very few that it's called just yoga, just a yoga unlimited membership, and they can come to whatever yoga class is offered. Only a few, like truly a handful that just come for yoga. Most our class packs, our memberships, all of that includes yoga and or CrossFit, whatever classes you choose. So that's where it's hard to put numbers on. We've had many people be like, oh, I love that you offer yoga. And rather than a class pack or rather than a 3 times a week, definitely it almost like puts them over the edge of, I'm going to do unlimited. Why would I not? Because it includes yoga as well.
The
So
value is
that's something.
overwhelming. Yeah.
Hmm?
The value is overwhelming for that option. It would be
Sure.
unintelligent for them to select anything else.
No, right. Which we want
Gotcha.
them to do the unlimited. We want to see them more than,
Right.
2 or 3 times a week anyway. And I think that really like, oh, including yoga, meaning I might even come 3 times a week, but I could do that Saturday yoga, or I could, hop into an evening yoga. Yes. So we have the memberships that include every class we offer. Like I said, we have over the years had a few that just walk in the door. They have no interest in CrossFit. They'll only come to yoga, but not as many. And I love, most of the time if they come for yoga, they're seeing what's going on in CrossFit. They're there in the lobby. They find out that I coach, or like, okay, so you do yoga and CrossFit. Like a lot dabble or maybe try CrossFit if they do just come for yoga. Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. So it's a two-way portal. Like I'm
Right.
sure you get yoga people, they
Yeah.
see and feel the CrossFit and they try that out. And do you get um probably more CrossFitters exposed to yoga the other way? Like you get more people that come initially for CrossFit and they're like, oh, well,
Oh,
let me do yoga then.
for sure, for sure. And CrossFitters that would never do a yoga class at another studio or
Traditional studio. Yeah.
not seek out yoga somewhere else, but since it's there, or hey, you just did the 4:30 class, there's a 5:30 yoga starting, I'll stay. So we try to be purposeful with when we offer yoga. We do a lot of the back to back.
Okay,
This
cool.
morning we have 5 a.m. CrossFit, 6:15 yoga, that people can just stay if their schedule allows. So oh my gosh, we have many, many more CrossFitters that have never done yoga, never tried it, and they do because it's there and they know us. And yeah,
Yeah, they trust you. And I'm
right.
sure they trust you. They it's convenient. And I'm sure they are probably better athletes or more fit as a result of participating in the yoga.
Mhm.
When one would hope, one would
Oh my
assume.
gosh, mobility. We're going into next couple weeks. We're going to be doing a strength cycle that includes overhead squats. And I was like, oh, that's great yoga marketing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about mobility and shoulders and ankles and hips and all of those things, it definitely like people start to recognize their need, and we speak to that. Like as we're warming up for overhead squats, we're like, hey, this is a yoga flow. Like we kind of warm up and we incorporate a lot of it into our warm ups for sure. So they get almost like a little taste or like, oh, that shoulder
Oh,
stretch we did.
you incorporate the yoga flows into your CrossFit class warm-ups.
Warm ups, yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
they're
that's
getting
awesome.
it's like, oh, what was downward facing dog or different yoga poses that are really great, vibrant warm ups. You know what I mean? That are
Yep.
going to get your shoulder. We have a client who's a physical therapist, and he's like, your warm ups are great. He's like, they're a little different because we're doing some yoga flows. But our coaches are bought in with it too. It's like our joke. We always start with plank, cobra, down dog. Like whatever our workout is, we do a little bit of a yoga flow as we're getting warmed up and talking about the workout. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
So, and you touched on this. Overhead squats are great marketing for yoga, and I completely understand that. Um, do you, as far as your marketing for the business, if I were to search you guys on Google, and I just want this for the listeners.
uh-oh.
Um, would I find you as a yoga studio? Would I find you as a gym? What would I find you? Do you know how your SEO works? Like, do you position yourself as yoga? What do you guys do?
I no, I believe it would be more of the gym, the CrossFit. To
Okay.
be honest, I that not that that was our intention. We used to have more, and I don't know if it was done on our part, like we used to have more inquiries about yoga, but not, yeah, it's definitely more the gym, like group fitness, CrossFit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to work harder to market? Are you trying to actively position yourself different than you are now? Or I'm just
Yeah.
trying to get a sense of like how would a business that offers both of these approach the marketing because they could be
Sure.
very different.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's another thing that what makes us appealing and unique to maybe the athlete and the CrossFitter. We might not be appealing, or we're not necessarily going to draw in the true yogi. You know what I mean? That had like wants to that might have a different style because we are attached to a CrossFit gym. So we rarely kind of get the yoga studio yoga person, if that makes sense, because we are a yoga studio, but I think just simply because we are attached to and under the umbrella of CrossFit, they might have, not that that's true, but they might have a sense of it. It's more of like a fitness style or not yoga, which would be, again, super great and purposeful of us to kind of market that and be like, no, this is our space. People get surprised all the time when they come in. They're like, oh, you have like a space, you have a studio here. It doesn't just happen to be cross or yoga classes in a CrossFit
In a
gym.
CrossFit gym,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And we
So
can do that much better for sure.
I was just curious, and I mean, whatever you guys are doing, it's working. I think it would be a question for an owner that was looking to incorporate or start this up and be like, do I market it as a different facility? Do I position our facility as both? Like, it's just a strategy that I
Yeah.
was curious if you were deliberate on.
Mhm. Mhm.
If In regards to the actual business, though, what has been the best thing about having both programs under one roof? Like, do you notice a higher retention? Is it easier to, if someone's like getting burnt out on one program versus the other, it's easier to retain them because you can say, hey, just stick in yoga for a while, or go to, if you want something new, let's try CrossFit. Have you seen any major positives about having both programs that you probably wouldn't have seen if you had just done one or the other?
Sure. Yeah, I think you just burst my retention bubble. I thought they were there because they just liked us. But no, actually, in saying that, we've had many, many experiences where someone, um, as far as retention, they might be training for a marathon. So they do a lot less CrossFit, but they still come to yoga 2 or 3 times a week because they have that as it's enhancing their program. I have a gentleman this week that he was working through an injury, not I don't know if it was necessarily like CrossFit, but just working through some stuff. And he did yoga all week. He didn't do any CrossFit classes, but he came to yoga 4 times. And he said, I'm just going to be doing yoga a couple weeks until I, start to feel better. So absolutely, they would be doing that or not doing that, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but doing that somewhere else, or they would be seeking out, because that would be my advice to them. Like, hey, keep moving. What can you do? And I would be, if they weren't coming to us, I'd be sending them, to a physical therapist and a yoga and massage. Like I'd be telling them to do that. So I do think as far as retention is that they have options and that we can be not, kind of that one-stop shop. Like they can come
Yep.
here and get the CrossFit and the group training and then the yoga. So absolutely, as far as what we offer, the value of what we offer. Yeah.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
If and I know this is a big if. This is totally hypothetical, theoretical, right? If you were to get rid of one of your programs, if you were to get rid of the CrossFit and just focus on yoga, or if you were to get rid of yoga and just focus on CrossFit, what would the impact be to the business? What do you think would be the negatives?
Sure. I think business wise, I think there would be the retention. I think that we have some that are right on the edge of they kind of dabble in the CrossFit, but they like both. I think that we would see people seeking that out other places, group fitness or yoga, or more mobility. And to be honest, just another one that we talk about a lot about as a community is just injury and longevity of what we do. We really try to promote. It's not like, we're all like, yes, it's CrossFit, but also we're training for life. We say that all the time. And we say, grab a yoga class. Like you've been here 4 times this week. I purposely have a yoga class on a Thursday morning. Take a yoga class, get a little more mindfulness, slow down a bit and trying to promote both because truly that is the core of why we do what we do. We believe in both and doing both well as far as longevity of like, can we do, I was telling a yoga class the other day, like I hope that we're able to do yoga, in all seasons, of life. So I think that just overall health and wellness, I think it contributes to that. So I don't think we would be as strong physically, mentally, emotionally as a community if we didn't just have
Yeah.
both. If that
It
makes sense.
sounds like it's a major part of the culture, and
Yeah.
obviously, and that would be the most noticeable aspect of your business to
Sure.
suffer. And I
Mhm.
think there's a saying. I can't remember the saying or who it's attributed to, so I'm not going to bother. But it's something like culture is king, or I know
Mm,
there's cash is king, but it's like culture. Like culture is so paramount to the success
yeah.
of not only small business but service-based businesses. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that I think a lot of gym owners think culture just happens, and
Mm,
it can just happen, but it can also be a very deliberate result
yeah.
if the owner of the business, the leader, focuses on directing it and not controlling it, but allowing it to grow in a certain way. And when the culture of a business, especially like I said, a service-based business, is healthy, usually, and I'd say 9 times out of 10, because I have not seen it, but I'm not going to deal in absolutes. Usually, financially, the business is successful and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's interesting to hear. If someone listening wanted to try to replicate what you guys were doing,
Yeah.
um, what are some lessons learned, or are there
Cool.
2 or 3 things that you would tell a new owner, hey, focus on these things first, prioritize these things, and then the rest
Sure.
will fall in line. What do you got?
Yeah, I think that we talked about the messaging and stuff earlier. I think the buy-in, you know what I mean? That why are you offering? Why are you offering what any specialty class or anything else that you would be offering? Why? And how is it going to benefit your members? So I think the buy-in, like our coaches, they've all been to yoga classes. If they can't come regularly, they've attended. So they're not, it's not like they just are into CrossFit and don't believe that, it's important what we do in yoga. So I think the buy-in and the consistency from us and then the coaches down, and just again be doing the authenticity. If we say, oh, mobility is important, and we don't ever do a cool down or mobility work, how important is it? So just that if we want to offer yoga and quality yoga and do that well, we have to start doing it and
Yeah.
kind of practice what you preach, and
Walk
like
the
I said, you
walk.
can even start, yeah, walk the
Walk the
walk,
walk.
right?
Yeah.
Walk the walk. So I think that's important. Like I said, you can even start simple with like I said, we integrate some yoga flows into warm-ups because it's a great dynamic warm-up. But then having it be purposeful. If it's something you want to offer and you think it's going to add value to your community, do it and do it consistently. I don't necessarily think a once a month or a standalone. You can start that way. I'm sure, like I said, I used to hear people all the time, I wish we did this more. I wish we had this offered weekly. I wish I had a chance. Like, well, actually, where do you teach? Like they would actually seek me out because they wanted to be doing it weekly and they didn't have the option. So if your members are asking for it and it's going to enhance your community, do it and do it consistently and well. And that's hard. That's hard to put time and effort into because we wear many different hats. To start, like I said, we have the luxury. We started with both. So we knew we needed to be consistent with both.
Yep.
I think it's heavy lifting to just be like, hey, we're going to incorporate yoga. And I think it would enhance, our member experience, but doing that and being consistent with it and what you offer. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I'd be hard pressed to not agree with you on that. Like if I had a gym that was, it's different if I have a gym and I want to add yoga. It would be different if I'm trying to build something from the ground up to include both. But regardless of where I'm starting, what you're saying is still 100% completely necessary, where it sounds like you need to focus on culture, consistency, and coaching. We dub these the three C's, sure.
Yeah.
Like the consistency is in the messaging, in the marketing, in constantly putting out in front of your members as not only is it an option, but it's here to stay. So they start seeing it as equal importance. The coaching, I mean, just like we talk about in CrossFit, if you have a solid coach, people will want to be coached by that person. So make sure that you have a good coach. And then what was the other one that I said? Consistency, coaching, and then culture.
Culture.
Yeah, and that speaks to your authenticity part. Like if if it's not important to the owner, if it's not important to the staff, it's never going to be important to the members. The members
Right.
follow the lead.
Right.
And so I guess I think you said buy-in, creating buy-in. And yeah, that makes total sense. There's no way you're going to have a successful program if the staff and especially the owners don't see its importance and its relevance.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
good stuff. Monica, I think this has been about 35 minutes of like gold mining for some great information.
Hopefully.
I think a lot of people will benefit from hearing your experience. Is it okay if some of the listeners if they have questions, they're able to reach out to you? If they want to, where would they find you? What's the best way to contact you?
Absolutely. Directly, email is probably the easiest, so I can share that. We also are on Instagram, so people send messages there as well. And I was trying to think, there might be even some pictures of our space because it's sometimes hard to picture, like what
Oh yeah.
what does our space look like? There might be some there, and then obviously our website as well.
So website and Instagram would be Steel Lotus Fitness Company, correct?
It's under Instagram, it's Steel Lotus Fit Co.
Fitco.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Fit
I
Co.
love it.
Yeah, we got
I love that.
creative there.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming out and sharing your experience and your wisdom, and everything has been phenomenal. Everyone listening, this will go out to the registration list, this recording, and it will also be posted inside of PushStart. If you don't know where PushStart is, it's at pushstart.pushpress.com. It is on the Circle platform, which is a community platform. We're going to post all of our content. We have business courses in there. We have people asking questions about helping me with marketing and how to start up a yoga program. So if you just need general help, head over to pushstart.pushpress.com and hit us up. Monica, thank you again so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it, Zach.
All right, take care.